Hi, it's Tammy Collins, and I'm here to help you unlock your creative curiosity. This channel is all going to be about my passion, and my passion is being creative, using your creativity, and finding ways to make it a positive, easy, relatable daily practice in your life. For me, creativity is a process of exploring, experimenting, evolving, expressing, and evoking emotion around what you create. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And by the way, things are perfectly imperfect around here. I spent years not doing things I wanted to do because of the head trash, the voices in my head, the anxieties, the fears, whatever it was. I prevented myself from doing things, and that's no longer going to happen. I'm just doing it, fears and all. So here we are. And so I'm recording these videos in a live as it happens process. So what you're seeing here is me getting ready to do a daily creative exploration. I have no idea what I'm doing. I wanted to explore the concept of essentially turning tissue paper into colored paper. So that's what's happening here. I put down a glass plate on my work surface so I wouldn't get it on this work surface. And then I put down a piece of parchment paper to prevent the finished tissue paper with paint from sticking to anything. And so now I'm just going to, I grabbed colors that I was inspired to use that were from a painting that I had done, which, by the way, these also happen to have sand in them to create a bit of a coarse texture, which was another experiment. We do a lot of that around here. But I'm putting these colors on here just haphazardly. The goal is that I will saturate it with water and sort of try to create a mottled look and finish. And we're going to experiment with what that does and what it looks like. And so why am I doing this? Well, it's a great way to just play with material, use colors and play with the colors, and experiment with what happens. Now, I can tell you that this experiment was the first time I did this. And so, of course, tissue paper is thin and tears easily. And so a little bit too much pressure, maybe some of the sand in the paint did create a few tears. So something to think about. And then what will happen is I will use these in other projects. Now, because this is in real time as it happens, of course, I have double timed the video, meaning that my actual record time was about an hour, and I sped it up just a hair so you don't get too bored. And so that sort of cuts it down to, under 30 minutes, which makes it a much more feasible thing for someone to watch that wants to sort of see what's going on, but doesn't want to sort of wait for the paint to dry, so to say. Now, because it's in real time, for example, this will have to dry, and that really can't happen in real time, even if I took a hairdryer and all that stuff. So you'll have to come back for the reveal of these. Will actually be in Creative Exploration number 3. And we'll revisit these, what the finished product was, and we'll use them in a project. I also am very passionate about carving out the time to just create. This was a big hurdle I had to overcome for myself. And the reason I say that is because I spent a lot of time, what am I going to create? I got to get my stuff out. I got to get ready, all this stuff. And so it created barriers that prevented me from doing something. So I created a station where I have things that I like to use all the time, readily available. And I don't pre-plan what I'm going to do at all. I wait until it's time. Okay, I'm feeling creative. What do I want to create? And I let my intuition take over. And that's it. I don't overthink it. I don't question it. I just roll with whatever happens. So these videos might be quite interesting because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what projects I'm going to work on. I don't know what's going to come out of them. And it's just how I do my creative time. Like I said, it's perfectly imperfect. So we finished with that design. I'm going to move it to the side and let it dry. And I'm going to try it again maybe some different colors. I don't know. I'm going to just keep experimenting with this concept a little bit. So if you're interested in exploring your creativity or learning to explore your creativity or learning what your art style is or anything related to art, creation, creativity, mixed media, paper, I love paper, this is the place to be. So be sure you like and subscribe, and feel free to share, make comments, tell me what you want me to do more of. You know, sometimes we don't know what it is we want until we see it. So this is just color combinations. These paints were left over from a project that I did. I painted a bee. I was experimenting with the concept of just using the squirt bottles as the tool to apply the paint. And I put some sand in it to give it some texture so that it would give a different finish when I was completed. So maybe at some point I'll share that with you. Now I can tell you, looking back on this, and this is why I'm also recording the audio after the fact, very important. I did a series of videos where I recorded myself creating and I was talking while I was doing it. And what happened is my creativity became really stunted and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized it was because I was trying to entertain you. I was trying to figure out what to talk about and what to say, and I was spending more time on that and losing focus on the creativity. So I decided to record the process, speed them up a little bit, and do the voiceover. I think it's a much more pleasurable experience for you as the viewer. So let me know if you like that or not. So when I do these again, I think in this case, I liked where this started out. I think I ended up adding too much water. I got a little impatient and I rushed the process. So that's why I'm sort of dabbing it off a little bit and trying to sort of give it a more mottled look. And so we'll see how they dry. Don't forget, you'll have to come back for number 3, the number 3 color exploration video to see what these came out to be. And so the reason I'm sticking this tissue paper on top, which by the way, that top piece would make a great piece in and of itself. I thought that was interesting. I had too much water on there. So again, trying that process with less water might work out really great. I should have kept that piece. I don't know. It was messy and I didn't have anywhere to stick it. Okay, so now that process is done, I have to wait for those to dry. And I thought, uh-oh, I didn't plan for this. What am I going to do now? So what you're looking at is a little creative journal that I made. It's an upcycled journal that I made from a magazine. If you'd like to learn more about that process and how to do that, let me know and I'll make a video about turning magazines into little creative journals. So I really love the paint colors that we're using. So I thought, well, let's do a little creative piece in here. Same thing. I'm just, whatever comes out. I'm not thinking about what I'm creating. And I think that's a really important point for anyone who's trying to create stuff. I think we get bogged down with thinking about, well, what's the finished piece going to be? And that really isn't the point. The point is to explore, have fun with it, play with it, let it evolve, you know, express what you're feeling, let your intuition go to work. And then at the end, see what kind of emotions that it evokes, right? If you finished a piece and you're like, wow, I really love this piece, there's some great things to take away from that. You evoked an emotion in you. If you kind of look at it and you're like, well, I don't really know what I was thinking here. Same thing, you're evoking emotions, just a different type of emotion. So if you focus on just that process of exploring, experimenting, letting it evolve, expressing your creativity, using your intuition, and see what kind of emotions are evoked in the process. That's what creativity is all about to me. I'm also going to try to not overtalk these. I want to share things. This channel is going to hopefully be about inspiring you to unlock your creativity, exploring your curiosity with your creativity. And sometimes there's silence, and that's okay. There's a pause. That's something I have to learn to work with and utilize more. So I'm just continuing to sort of do whatever speaks to me and see what happens. So now I have to wait for that page to dry. And what I did off camera was just take it over to I have a fan there that sort of runs, and it's going to let that dry. It's much thinner because the magazine is coated in an acrylic gesso, so it'll dry quickly. So I decided to go one more round with this tissue paper and use a different technique. I got this particular gold stuff here. It's called metallic gilding polish. It's a fantastic texture. You'll get the hint of that a little bit later here as we move forward. So the idea here is that I was going to cover this tissue paper in some of these same colors, but I was going to do it more in a sort of stamping with the sponge and trying to get with the combination of the wrinkled paper to create its own texture. So I'm just going to go through that process here where I'm just adding color and building up layers. The paints in the squirt bottle are just, the inexpensive acrylics, and I put them in the bottle in a mixture. There's a little bit of water, there's a little bit of medium, and there's some sand in there. I was trying to create a certain texture for a picture a piece that I did. I should also mention that I live in a very remote location, and we have lots of crazy things that happen around here. We have wild animals and chickens and all kinds of crazy things. So you never know when you're liable to hear some chaos in the background. And I'll do my best to edit those out. But, again, this is real life. We're perfectly imperfect here. We're imperfectly perfect. Perfectly imperfect, imperfectly perfect. See, I spent many years I ended up putting my own walls and boundaries up because I was just so paralyzed by having to make things right, and what are people going to think, and all these crazy things that we all do to ourselves. And I've really worked hard over the last couple of years to get past all that. One of the things I always wanted to do was this medium of doing videos and sharing the creative process. But I always said, oh, it's not right, it's not perfect, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't even know what I'm creating. And then I realized that's the point. Neither does anybody else, really. We just want to see processes. We want to be inspired to do things. We want to see others do things and how they do it. All right, so now I want to try to incorporate this gold, and I'd never used this gold before. And so I have no idea what tool to use. So I'm experimenting. I'm trying with the brush, and I'm not really liking the result. Let me try a little bit more. I'm just playing around. I'm like, that's not really what I want. You can see how that's very thick. It's almost like a toothpaste consistency. It's not super thick like a texture medium, but it's a very heavy bodied paste, if you will. It's like in between. So now I'm like, I think it comes with a little dauber. It's almost like the sponge, but it's on the lid of the jar. So I like that. But then I realized that the best way to apply this is going to be with this knife, but it takes me a few minutes to figure that out. And so once I did that, I really liked how that started to come out. Do you have a favorite gold product that you use? A paste, a paint, a pen? Tell me what it is. I've been on the search for really good stuff. I love the color and the body of this a lot. So I'm looking forward to playing with this a bit more. It was really affordable as well, too. Okay, so see, here's where I figure out that, oh, wait, maybe I should just use the knife. And yes, I know my lighting is absolutely terrible. I could have let myself not go ahead and make this channel because I had to wait to get a light, and I decided, no, there's no more excuses. We'll get a light. Eventually I'll get a light. It'll get better. But I could have said, oh, I don't have a light, so I can't start that YouTube channel yet, which is something I would have done before. So I really like this now with the knife. So the next time I use this, that's how I will. I really love it. It's you can't quite tell in the video, but it's really great. Okay, so the book, the creative journal has dried now. So what I'm doing now is I'm using my non-dominant hand, and I'm just putting some like scribble lines on there. And this is taken from a process called neurographic art, and I can never remember his name. I'll put the link in the notes for you to check it out. But there's an artist who created this methodology. I think he's actually a psychologist, or maybe he's an art psychologist, but I think he's Polish, and he created this methodology called neurographic art, or I'm kind of butchering that, I'm sorry. But anyway, it's a process that's very meditative, and I really love it. I've adapted it slightly. I use sort of the core ideas, but basically you're removing all of the sharp corners. So let's see, so right there, you see how I take and I round off those corners? This process is really great, and I find it to be fantastic to really push your creativity and get your juices flowing. So I really love it. I've adapted it a little bit, and I use this process a lot in a lot of my abstract work. I really love it as a core element, or a layer in there, if you will. So at this point, I would consider this to be a mixed media piece. You know, we have the acrylic gesso base, and then we have the acrylic paints with sand in them. And now I'm using a Tombow. I love Tombow dual brush pens. Absolutely love them. I use them like watercolor a lot. I'm sure you'll see that in some videos that we'll be doing. And so I'm just connecting everything. I'm rounding off all the corners. And then see, now I'm going to come back and color that in. And now you'll really start to see this take shape. And I also realized, I apologize now, that I have a tendency to pull that artwork closer to me on the table, which makes it not quite center under the camera. So I will have to adjust my camera. It's a bad habit. But I think you get the point, and I think you can see what's happening. Better to create than to create an excuse not to create. So this entire video was shot from the beginning, with doing the tissue paper experiments to where I end this, was about an hour of time. That's about what I usually spend. Sometimes when I do a bigger piece, I allocate like a 3-hour spot in my creative time to work on the piece. Or sometimes I'll let that piece take 2 days. I create most every day, 5, 6, maybe even 7 days a week a lot of the time. And my passion is to unlock your creative curiosity. I think a lot of people are intimidated or don't know how, and I really want to help people explore that. I think that by keeping an intuitive creative journal, you can really begin to sort of dig in and explore. You'll begin to figure out your style. Let me know if you want me to do a video on that. There's a lot of different ways it can be done, but there's a few key things that if you follow, you can really answer a lot of your inner questions that you have about what your abilities are or what you can do. And truth be told, none of us really know till we try and explore. I want to share with you that I don't want these videos to be overly produced. Of course, they could be, edited and turned into, mini style movies, and that's not really the point here. The point is, I want you to see what it's really like in real time to do a creative process. So there, you can see I've kind of completed that task. Now I'm just going to come back and maybe add in some more. So at this point I kind of go, well, what is it speaking to me now? What happens? And that big space there in the middle, I'm thinking it needs something else. So I'm just adding in some lines, and then I will go back and repeat the same process of rounding off all the corners. I'll thicken up those lines in the middle as well too. Now we won't complete this creative exploration in this video. It will be extended into number 2, creative exploration number 2. That's where we'll pick up where this video leaves off, and we'll finish it over there. I'd like to try to keep these videos into bite-sized chunks that are a little bit more manageable, that you can watch on your lunch, or on a break time, or maybe you're just sitting down to sort of unwind for a half an hour, or maybe it's the end of the night and you're just looking to sort of just watch a creative process. So I feel that trying to keep the videos to a good time frame is important for you as the viewer. So even though the process that I spent here was about an hour, I just simply sped it up just a hair so that it cut the time down to about a little under a half an hour. And of course I took out, there were a couple spots where I walked away from the table and that kind of thing, but overall this is accurate, real time. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to have you follow along. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what kind of things you want to see. I've got lots of things I'd like to do and share with you, and even hopefully inspire you or teach you about creativity and developing a creative practice. And I'd love to hear what you think. What did you think of the piece? What do you think of the colors? What did you think about, the outcome? Did it evoke emotion in you? What kind of emotion? So now I'm just kind of going over everything and just making it a little bit more opaque. This particular Tombow marker is a dark gray. I didn't opt for a black. I didn't want a stark black. I wanted a deep gray. It was, you can see on the right side it looks a little bit more transparent, and on the left, after I've just gone over it, it looks a little bit darker. So I just like that look, and I want to continue on with that.